Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're tackling a pretty fascinating, but I'll be honest, sometimes challenging topic.
Yeah, this one's a bit of a brain twister.
We're diving into the world of symbolism, and specifically those symbols that love to pop up in our dreams. We're using Carl Jung's The Symbolic Life as our guide.
Oh, Jung. Always a fascinating but dense read.
Exactly. That's why we're here to break it down, make it relatable, and maybe even have some fun along the way.
Yeah.
But, before we get into all the details of what a symbol is and all that,
Right.
why should anyone even care? Symbols are everywhere, sure, but do they really matter?
Oh, they matter more than we realize. Much more. They're not just signs or labels.
Like they're more than just, oh, that's the logo for whatever.
Right. Symbols point to something much deeper, something unconscious, a hidden meaning. You never really fully grasp it.
It's like they're whispering secrets from a part of ourselves we don't even know.
Precisely. And understanding those secrets can be incredibly valuable.
Like how so? What's the practical benefit?
Well, it can help us understand our motivations, make better decisions, maybe even connect with a deeper sense of purpose.
So it's not just about, like, interpreting weird dreams, it's about understanding our minds better.
Exactly. Jung believed that symbols are the language of the soul, a way for the unconscious to talk to the conscious mind.
Okay, so if symbols are like this hidden language, first we got to define what a symbol even is.
Right. How is it different from like a regular old sign?
Yeah.
Well, Jung says a symbol is a term, a name, an image, something that we might be familiar with, but it carries a hidden meaning, something more to it than meets the eye, a wider unconscious aspect, as he put it, something you can never fully grasp. It's not like a sign which has a fixed meaning. Think of a stop sign, you know exactly what that means.
Right.
A symbol is more like, well, he uses the example of the double ads on those ancient Cretan monuments.
Oh, right, the tool.
We know it's a tool, but what does it symbolize? Even the experts are still debating that.
It's like trying to explain, like, the meaning of a meme, maybe. On the surface, it's just a funny picture.
Yeah.
But all these layers of meaning and social commentary,
That's a great analogy. It's that act of unpacking the layers, of trying to understand them, that's key to understanding a symbol.
So we use symbols consciously all the time,
Yeah.
obviously, like religious icons, national flags, brands, all that.
Yes, absolutely.
But then there's the spontaneous stuff, the symbols that just kind of pop up on their own.
Yeah.
And that's where dreams get really interesting, right?
Dreams are a direct line to the unconscious.
So that dream I had last night where all my teeth were falling out, what's that all about? Do I need to see a dentist?
Probably not. Jung saw dreams as symbolic expressions of the unconscious. Often they're trying to compensate for something that's out of balance in our waking lives.
So it's like my unconscious is sending me a telegram, but in this like bizarre code.
Exactly. And to understand those messages, we need to delve into the language of symbols.
Now, Jung was influenced by Freud, of course, but they had very different ideas about how to interpret dreams, right?
Right.
Wasn't Freud all about like repressed desires and those complexes he was always talking about?
Yes. He believed that dreams often represented those desires, especially the ones we try to hide.
The forbidden stuff.
Exactly. He developed this method called free association, where the dreamer would just talk about whatever popped into their head related to the dream images.
A stream of consciousness, basically.
Yeah. The idea was to trace it back to the source of the desire.
But Jung wasn't totally on board with that, was he?
Well, he felt that while it could be helpful, sometimes, sometimes it could send you down a rabbit hole of personal complexes without really getting to the deeper meaning.
It's like that story he tells about his colleague on a train in Russia, right?
Oh, yes.
Trying to decipher the Cyrillic alphabet and ending up
lost in his own complexes. Ha ha ha. It's a great story.
So even if you uncover those secret thoughts, as he calls them, it's not the whole story, is it?
Right. Jung argued that instead of just free associating, we need to circumambulate the dream.
Circumambulate. Now there's a word.
It basically means, examine it from all angles rather than just fixating on one detail.
Like walking around a statue, maybe?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. For example, he talks about a dream where a man sees his wife drunk and disheveled, which is completely unlike her in real life.
Shocking image.
So instead of just saying, well, that's absurd, we need to ask, what is the unconscious trying to say by showing this image?
And this is where the whole idea of the anima comes in, right? That feminine archetype within every man.
Precisely. Jung said, every man carries Eve, his wife, hidden in his body. It's this feminine element, this anima, that can be projected onto women in dreams.
So if you're having a dream with a strong female figure, it might not be about a literal woman.
It might be about aspects of yourself.
Parts of your personality that need to be integrated or acknowledged? Or,
Yes, exactly.
Okay, this is deep stuff. But let's be honest, a lot of people think dreams are just random nonsense, just the brain doing its thing while we sleep.
Sure, a lot of people think that.
So why should we even bother? Why not just hit the snooze button on the whole thing?
Well, Jung tells this interesting story about an East African tribe who claimed their dreams meant nothing.
Really?
Except the only dreams that did matter were those of the chief and the medicine man. Dreams about, the tribe's well-being.
Interesting.
But then when the British arrived, guess whose dreams suddenly became important? The district commissioners.
Oh, I see. It's about power.
It highlights a universal truth. Even when we try to deny the power of dreams, we're still acknowledging that they have potential impact.
So dreams aren't just about wish fulfillment or repressed desires.
No.
There's something more going on down there, in the unconscious. What else is there?
Jung believed the unconscious isn't just a dumping ground for unwanted thoughts. It's also a source of creativity, new ideas, and even ancient wisdom.
Like cryptomnesia, where Nietzsche accidentally plagiarized a story he had read as a child and forgotten.
Yes, that's an incredible example of how the unconscious can hold on to experiences and knowledge long after the conscious mind forgets them.
So it's like this vast reservoir of untapped potential just waiting to be tapped.
Precisely. And dreams are one way to tap into that potential, to gain insights into ourselves and the world around us.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this is also important.
Yeah.
But how? How do dreams actually do that? They feel so random and chaotic most of the time.
One of the key functions of dreams is to compensate for imbalances in our waking lives.
If I'm super stressed out, my dreams will be like a spa day, all relaxing.
It's not always so literal, but Jung gives this example of a mountain climber who kept dreaming about stepping off a cliff.
Yikes.
And then a woman who was having disturbing dreams about being attacked in the woods. And both of these dreams, well, they actually foreshadowed real-life events.
Whoa, hold on. Are you saying dreams predict the future?
Well, not in a literal sense. The point is they're trying to get our attention, to alert us to things that might be out of balance in our lives or, patterns in our behavior that we're not conscious of.
It's like an early warning system, maybe?
Precisely. They can be incredibly insightful if we learn to listen to their messages.
Okay, so we've been talking about personal symbols, those that relate to an individual's life.
Yes.
But what about those symbols that seem to pop up across cultures, all through history? Like the hero's journey or the wise old man, those ones that feel almost universal.
This is where Jung's concept of archetypes comes into play.
Oh, right, the archetypes.
Archetypes are universal patterns in the human mind that give rise to similar symbols and myths across cultures.
It's like this ancient symbolic language we all understand.
Precisely. Jung believed these archetypes are expressions of what he called the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of human experience and wisdom that we all tap into.
Okay, so this is where it starts to get really mind-blowing. There's that story Jung tells about his patient whose young daughter was having these very vivid dreams.
Yes. She was only 8 years old, but her dreams were full of, death and rebirth, creation of the world.
Big themes.
These major themes that you find in mythologies all over the world.
And Jung believed these dreams weren't just, a kid's imagination running wild.
Yeah.
It was like she was channeling some ancient wisdom. But how?
Jung's point is that we don't inherit specific ideas, but rather a tendency to form certain images and stories, a predisposition to experience the world through these archetypal lenses.
So these archetypes are like blueprints for human experience.
Exactly. And by understanding them, we can gain a much deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It makes you wonder. We think SOMUCH about symbols these days, analyze them.
Yes.
Have we lost something in the process? Have we lost some of the raw power of the symbol by, overthinking it?
It's an interesting question. Jung was concerned about that.
He was.
Oh, yes. He believed modern people have become estranged from the direct experience of the symbol, too focused on, intellectual understanding, on dissecting and categorizing.
Like we've traded the magic for a textbook.
Exactly.
But he also believed that these archetypal forces are still at work, even today, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like that professor who was terrified of getting cancer, even though there was no medical reason to be.
Yes. It was like his fear became its own symbol, representing a deeper, unconscious anxiety. A sense of powerlessness, maybe.
Even though we don't call them gods anymore.
Right.
It's like those same forces are still at play, just with different names.
Exactly. And understanding them through the language of symbols can give us a much deeper understanding of ourselves and the world.
So we may not always be able to control those forces.
No.
We can learn to understand them.
And maybe even work with them.
This is all so fascinating. It's like we're all part of this grand cosmic play, and the symbols are clues to help us understand our roles.
Yes. And by learning to pay attention to those symbols, we can start to make sense of the plot twists.
Exactly. Maybe even write our own happy ending.
Maybe so.
But that's probably a conversation for another deep dive.
Indeed. There's always more to explore.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling inspired to pay more attention to my dreams and the symbols in my life. But how do we actually interpret them? It seems like it could get pretty subjective, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Jung was very critical of that kind of dream dictionary approach.
So there's no universal symbol decoder ring we can use.
I'm afraid not. Each symbol needs to be understood within its own context, the specific details of the dream and the individual dreamer's personal experiences.
So going back to that example of the man who dreams about his wife as, drunk and disheveled.
Right.
How would we even begin to unpack that symbol?
Well, we'd start by exploring his associations with that image. What feelings does it bring up for him? What memories or experiences does it trigger?
And because we're talking about the anima, we also want to look at his relationship with his own feminine side. Is there a part of himself that he's neglecting or repressing?
Exactly. You have to look at the dream holistically. Where does it take place? What other characters or symbols appear? All of those elements contribute to the message.
Putting together a puzzle.
Yes.
You need all the pieces to see the full picture.
Precisely. And that process of putting the pieces together can be incredibly transformative because it allows you to access parts of yourself that you may not even know exist.
But what about those times when a dream just feels completely nonsensical? Like I'm flying through the air with a giant hamster and suddenly I'm at a board meeting in my underwear. Is there any hope of interpreting that?
Even those seemingly absurd dreams can hold profound meaning. Remember, the unconscious speaks in symbols, metaphors, so that flying hamster might represent something unexpected in your life, something unpredictable. And the board meeting in your underwear could symbolize feeling exposed or vulnerable.
Okay, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. But, Jung also talked about how our personality type can influence how we interpret symbols. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so he observed that people tend to have a dominant attitude, either introverted or extroverted.
Right.
And that can really impact how they see the world and how they make meaning of their experiences, including their dreams.
So introvert and extrovert might look at the same symbol and
Yes.
see totally different things.
Exactly. An introvert might focus more on the symbols, in the inner meaning, its connection to their own personal feelings and experiences, whereas an extrovert might be more drawn to its outer manifestation, its relationship to the world, other people.
So there's no one right interpretation.
Right.
It's more about finding the meaning that resonates with the individual.
That's a great way to put it. The goal of dream interpretation is to help people understand their own unconscious processes and then use that knowledge for personal growth.
Okay, so we've talked about personal symbols and archetypes and the importance of context in dream interpretation. What else should we keep in mind as we're trying to decode these messages from the unconscious?
Well, one thing is that symbols they're fluid. Their meaning can evolve depending on the context and the individual.
So a symbol that meant one thing to me 5 years ago could mean something completely different to me today.
Absolutely. Our unconscious is constantly evolving, responding to our experiences, So the symbols that we encounter in our dreams will also shift and change.
It's like they're providing us with, a running commentary on our lives.
Exactly.
Reflecting back to us what's most relevant.
Yes. And by paying attention to them, we can get a lot of valuable insight and use that to navigate life's challenges and opportunities.
So it's not just about understanding the past.
No.
Dreams can offer guidance for the future.
Yes. Dreams often have this compensatory function, They're trying to balance out imbalances. Sometimes those compensations can point us toward new directions, possibilities we haven't considered.
So a dream could be a wake-up call, kind of.
Yes, absolutely. Urging us to make a change or pursue a new path.
Or offer support, maybe.
Yeah, or that. Remind us of our own inner strength, our resilience.
This is so fascinating. It's like we have this built-in guidance system, but we've forgotten how to use it.
Exactly.
It's like we've lost the instruction manual.
Yeah. Thankfully, Jung helps us to rediscover it a bit.
So for our listeners who are ready to start taking their dreams seriously, where do they begin?
Well, keeping a dream journal is a great first step. It allows you to track your dreams over time, Notice those recurring patterns, symbols.
What about trying to remember my dreams when I first wake up?
Yeah, that's so important. The longer you wait, the more likely those details will fade.
Yeah.
So try to jot down those, fleeting images, emotions before they're gone.
Okay, yeah. Any other tips for remembering?
Creating a peaceful space for dream recall can be really helpful. Maybe just spend a few minutes meditating, relaxing before you try to remember your dreams.
But what about those times when I just can't remember anything?
Don't worry, that happens. It's totally normal. Not all dreams are meant to be remembered. But sometimes, even if you can't recall specific details, you might still have a lingering feeling and emotion.
Like a sense of, I don't know, unease or excitement? I can't explain.
Yes, exactly. Pay attention to those subtle cues. They could be trying to tell you something important.
Okay, so even those blank dreams can be meaningful. That's encouraging. But I have to admit, this all feels a little intimidating. It seems like a lot of work to try and decipher all these messages.
Oh, it can be challenging at first.
Yeah.
But remember, dream analysis is a journey. It's not a destination. The more you engage with your dreams, the more comfortable and confident you'll become.
Like learning a new language, maybe.
Exactly. At first, it might feel overwhelming, but with practice, it becomes more natural, more fluent.
And then you unlock a whole world.
Right. A whole world within yourself, full of insights, wisdom potential.
Okay, so dream interpretation can help us understand ourselves better, make better decisions. But what about, sometimes a dream feels prophetic or precognitive, like it seems to predict something that actually happens later. Is that just coincidence, or is there something weirder going on?
That's a question that has fascinated people forever. There are so many stories about dreams that seem to foretell future events. And Jung himself believed that the unconscious could, in some cases, access information that wasn't yet available to the conscious mind.
So you're saying it's not just superstition?
He believed the unconscious operates outside of linear time. So it has this more holistic, interconnected understanding of reality.
Wait, you saying our unconscious can see into the future? Does that have a crystal ball or something?
It's not quite that simple. Jung's ideas about time and synchronicity are complicated and often misunderstood. But to put it simply, he believed that the unconscious can perceive patterns and connections that we aren't aware of consciously.
So it's like our unconscious is working on this puzzle, but we don't even know what the pieces are yet. And sometimes those pieces align in a way that
seems to reveal a glimpse of what's to come.
Whoa.
And those glimpses, however fleeting or symbolic they might be, can give us valuable insights and guidance as we, navigate life's uncertainties.
Okay, so we might not have a crystal ball.
Right.
But we can learn to listen to those little hints
Yes.
from the unconscious, those flashes of insight. That's exciting, but kind of scary too.
It's about approaching life with a sense of curiosity, wonder, recognizing that there's always more to discover, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
I love that. It's like we're all explorers,
Yes.
setting out on a grand adventure.
Yeah.
But instead of charting new lands, we're...
mapping the uncharted territories of our own minds.
Exactly. And who knows what treasures we might uncover.
Who knows indeed.
It's funny. We spend so much time analyzing symbols these days. I wonder if we've lost something in the process.
What do you mean?
Well, all this intellectualizing, does it take away from the raw power of the symbol?
That's a really interesting point. We can get so caught up in trying to understand symbols on an intellectual level that we forget to just let them move us, on a deeper level.
It's like we're so busy taking the engine apart that we forget to actually go for a drive.
I like that. It reminds me of that Elgon tribe we were talking about earlier.
Oh, right.
Living those rituals, feeling that connection to the sunrise without needing to explain it.
Right. They were just plugged in while we're over here with the owner's manual.
Exactly. Jung believed that modern humans have become, disconnected from that direct experience of the symbol, too reliant on our intellects, on explanations.
So we've traded the magic for the mechanics.
In a way, yes. But the good news is we can rediscover that magic.
We can.
Oh, absolutely. We can reawaken that sensitivity to the symbolic language that's all around us.
Okay, but how? How do we get back to that sense of awe and wonder? Not the textbook version.
It starts with simply paying attention to the symbols that show up in our lives. Not just in dreams, but, everywhere. Instead of dismissing them as random, meaningless, we can stop and ask ourselves, what might this be trying to tell me?
So like a song on the radio, or running into someone I haven't seen in years. Those could all be.
It could be. It's about cultivating that sense of curiosity, openness to seeing the world through a symbolic lens.
What about when we feel lost? Can symbols help us find our way?
Jung believed they absolutely can. He saw symbols as guides, pointing us toward our true path in life.
Like breadcrumbs, maybe, leading us back to ourselves.
Yes, I like that image a lot. Think about that professor we talked about.
The one with the fear of cancer.
Yes, his fear wasn't rational in a way, but it had this incredible power over him.
It became a symbol in itself, didn't it?
Exactly, representing something deeper, maybe some unconscious anxiety, a sense of powerlessness.
And by facing those deeper things,
we can start to break free from their grip.
So it's not about ignoring our fears or pretending they don't exist. It's about understanding them.
Yes, and having compassion for ourselves, In those ancient myths, the hero always has to face some kind of monster.
Right.
To claim their treasure, to become who they're meant to be.
Wow, yeah. That's a powerful image. So how do we become the heroes of our own lives? How do we learn to read the symbols, the messages?
It's about trusting our intuition, that inner voice that whispers to us in dreams, in those moments of synchronicity.
That gut feeling.
Yes, exactly. And the more we pay attention to those subtle nudges,
the stronger that voice gets.
Exactly.
So it's not about becoming some kind of expert or memorizing a bunch of archetypes or anything like that. It's just about
being open, curious, and
trusting that something bigger is at work.
Yes, trusting that the unconscious, however strange it might seem, is ultimately working in our favor.
I love that. It's like remembering we're not alone on this journey.
Exactly. There's this deeper intelligence guiding us even when we don't realize it.
And that intelligence speaks to us
through the language of symbols.
So to our listeners out there, embrace the mystery, embrace the wonder. Don't be afraid to get curious about the symbols you encounter.
Let them surprise you, challenge you, lead you to unexpected places.
Because this journey,
the
one we're all on, it's not just about understanding the world around us.
It's about understanding ourselves.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the symbols in your own life. Happy exploring.
Until next time.